The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is an agreement among states to award their electoral votes to the winner of the popular vote across all 50 states and the District of Columbia. With the compact, the candidate winning the national popular vote would always be awarded at least the 270 electoral votes necessary to become president. In other words, the compact would ensure that the presidential candidate who receives the most popular votes would win the office, just like other elections in our country. And some important things to know about the national popular vote interstate compact is that it preserves the electoral college. It's fully allowed by the U.S. Constitution without an amendment, making this a really achievable reform. As I said, it ensures the popular vote winner becomes president every time. It injects the fundamental principle of one person, one vote into our presidential elections. It resembles interstate compacts on other issues. This is a structure that's familiar to our system. And it would go into effect when passed by states containing, that majority of electoral votes.
Yeah, just to put a fine point on that, the 18 states, you asked what's different for them right now. Nothing's different for them right now, but there are 18 states with 209 electoral votes, right? And so when states with 61 more electoral votes join those states, it then triggers and becomes effective for the presidential election. And that, to the idea that this isn't a science project, you know what I mean? Anybody who knows anything about election reform, when you can get 18 states to agree on anything, must be a pretty good idea and a pretty popular idea. That's true of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. 67% of the American people want a national popular vote for president. But I would also point out that we've passed in one chamber or the other, a House or the Senate, in 8 states with 78 more electoral votes, more than the electoral votes required. So I can tell you that national popular vote, the interstate compact, is not a Republican or Democrat idea. It's not a partisan issue. Frankly, it's for anybody who believes that every voter in every state should be politically relevant. And I think it's for any voter who thinks we can have a better politics in this country if the principle of one person, one vote applies to presidential elections. Last thing I'll say about interstate compact, every state's in dozens of these things. These aren't experiments. I think the one that most people know the most about is Powerball, right? That's an interstate compact where people go buy a lottery ticket. The states get the resources, but what holds that all together is called an interstate compact. So what those are is contracts amongst the states or agreements amongst the states. And they're absolutely enforceable. They're older than the Republic, and they're not exotic things in American government.
Alyssa, you mentioned that the national popular vote maintains the electoral college. Why keep it around? Is this just a more convenient way to go as opposed to trying to do, I don't know if it would be a constitutional amendment or, whatever the procedure would be to eliminate the electoral college?
Yeah, I'll take this first, which is it's not a matter of convenience. I mean, anybody who thinks this reform's convenient should follow me around in my shoes for a day. The bottom line is it takes time to change and should take time to change. The reason the interstate compact's the way to go is because it's allowed under the United States Constitution. Any of your political science listeners, can open up their pocket copy of the Constitution and read Article 2, Section 1. It says each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors. Okay, so different states have used different methods to award their electors, right? Maine and Nebraska do it by congressional district. When they changed their statute, didn't require a constitutional amendment. So what we do is we use the power as it exists within the Constitution to have a national popular vote election, which is what people want. There's no reason to amend the Constitution if the power exists to do it within the Constitution. And, the bottom line is we don't change a city charter to fill a pothole, right? The city has the power to fill a pothole. So let's just use what's in the system. Now, I will say, anybody who's like, oh, I'm for a national popular vote for president, but think we should have a constitutional amendment, they're part of the problem. You know what I mean? Because we need a national popular vote for president. There's one way we're going to get one. There's one way that's been vetted, by 18 states and has bipartisan support. That way is the plan at nationalpopularvote.com. So if you do want a presidential election system where every voter in every state is relevant, where the candidate with the most votes is guaranteed the presidency, get on board because this is the way it's going to get done.
How is this campaign thinking about the idea that the compact, if and when it comes to fruition, might be challenged in court or wind up on the Supreme Court to, on their docket to weigh in on? Is that something that I guess one could happen given this structure that you just described about this being permitted in the Constitution? And if it could find its way to the Supreme Court, how are you preparing for what that might look like? I know that in politics, you have to look at what's right ahead in front of you, but also what's coming 2 or 3 steps down the road.
I will tell you, there will be a lawsuit. This is America. So there will be a lawsuit. We will win it. We will win it in perhaps summary judgment. Certainly the idea that states have the power to award electors, that is the most settled that's the most settled piece of constitutional law. And I would say a conservative court is more likely, but way more likely to uphold that than even the most liberal court, right? Because it says what it says. That's what strict constructionism is all about. So Article 2, Section 1, I think the court case will center around whether or not the national popular vote interstate compact requires congressional consent around Article 1, Section 10. If they determine we need consent, we'll go to Congress and we'll get it. If they determine we don't need consent, which only interstate compacts that encroach on federal supremacy require congressional consent, if they determine we don't, it'll take effect. And so that's where I think the crux of the lawsuit will be. I promise you we'll be fully prepared to fight it, and we will certainly win it. And whatever the court tells us to do, we're going to go do, because we need a national popular vote for the president.